Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in on this Saturday afternoon alongside Jan from New York City Saves Money.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Jan. Um, we're going to talk about two things that are more expensive than what they should be. And Jan, would you like to
I
elaborate on that?
appreciate being here. Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Good to see you as always, Steve. Thank you for having me here.
You too.
Steve and I were talking about two items these days that, in our both opinion, we totally agree on this one. We should never pay all that much money for. Want to know what the two items are? One is music, the other one is pizza. What? What did they have to do with each other? Well, let's put it this way. When I was a kid, way back in the dinosaur days, in the 1960s and 70s, we kind of didn't have that many choices when it came to music or pizza. I'll give you an example. In my region, in my part of the world, when you wanted a piece of pizza, you had to physically go to the pizzeria to get the pizza. Actually, like go to a pizzeria and get the pizza. Today, we have a gazillion options. Now, when it comes to music, back in my day, there weren't that many choices either. I mean it. We either heard the song on the radio and you had to sit and pray if you really had a favorite tune and wait and hope and pray and like spend 6 hours waiting for the DJ to play the song you really liked. And then when you really got motivated, you went to the record store and actually bought a physical small record, 45, or a full playing album. That's what the choices were back then. Now, Steve, you may tend to agree with me on this one. Why would or why should anyone today, at this time, I'm going to throw this question to you, Steve, complain about getting the ability to obtain music today? Wouldn't you say that that's kind of like silly at this point in time?
Yes, I do, because you have a lot of avenues in order to hear music. Um, Before I mention or start talking about that, you had one other record within the 45, the LP. It was called a 12 inch. What it was is you had one song maybe done up three, maybe four different ways. You'd have the original, an extended mix, a club mix, it was highly used. It was highly used within the DJ world. That was where it was. But I personally like 12-inch records because I am a person that likes extended mixes of songs. I always have. Don't ask me why. But I do like original versions of songs too. But I've always liked having the best of both worlds. Now, when it comes to music availability, it's really at our fingertips. You've got YouTube, which all of us know. Even though you and I are both content creators, I and I know you are. We're both onlookers. We go on there, we look up music because we're both music lovers, and just like our subscribers are, some are too. But you can go there. You can get an account with Spotify, or you can go to Pandora, or another one called Deezer, Deezer. You can get an account with them. But I kind of prefer Pandora and Spotify a little bit better if you give me a choice. And you can set up a free account. Yes, you have ads with it, but I mean, a little bit of ads is not. But I'll tell you this, a little bit of ads is not bad, but it still beats what you hear on the radio. On the radio, you've got 10 minutes worth of blah, blah, blah. You're talking about trying to sell an igloo to an ice box to an igloo. That's it. But you know what I mean. But, and it's like, are these commercials ever going to end? But I don't like, I don't like radio anymore because everything is so repetitious.
And you're bringing up a good point, Steve, about those little ads. To me, that's a small price to pay. Think about when we were growing up. We would either have to buy. Okay, you're younger, much younger than me, about
Hmm.
16 years younger than me. In your day, you bought like your CDs. I mean, it was different world. I lived through. Oh my gosh, records. This is really showing dating me. Records, cassettes, 8 track, CD. DVD, now digital. Steve, truly, you were going to say something, but I'm sure you agree to the way to get music taste like this. There's no excuse. There's no complaint.
Well, the reason why you see that big smirk on my face is this. I'm not your average um, you know, Generation X born in 74 because remember something. I used to record music, vinyl CDs onto a reel to reel tape deck. I
Oh,
have done cassette decks. I have done 8-track. I have done mini disc. I have done DAT recorders. I have
yes.
also done hard drive recorders. It's all so I've had my share of analog and digital. Personally, me, I prefer analog. Analog to me always sounds better than digital. Digital is very sterile and clean. Analog has more of a fat sound to it. It
It
does it all,
does.
you
It
know.
does. You're right.
So, so I'm very familiar with the 8-track and all of that. Like I said, I'm not your typical common 48-year-old because you ask a lot of dat deck, dat recorder. What is that? That's a digital audio tape that looks like an 8 millimeter tape that was used to record music on prior to the CD recorder coming out to the general public. I personally prefer a DAT recorder over the CD burner. I think you, at some point, had a chance to see one
Yes.
physically working. So,
Yes.
um,
There is a difference. There are some sound differences, and even beyond the technology, which Steve and I tend to like certain technology, and especially in terms of audio, because audio makes a difference in our lives, really big time. But I remember, Steve, you may recall this too, waiting hours on end when we were listening to radios for the big hits to come on. Like, oh, I can't wait. I mean, in a way, that was kind of like fun in a way, and you couldn't wait. And then you ran to the record store, whatever you wanted to call it, and just run there. And the anticipation. I used to play, let's say, my favorite 45 100 times. When I first got my first, my record of the favorite song, it would drive my parents crazy. Again.
mm, yeah,
But today's no excuse. Tap tap. If people are watching us at the same time, they can get their favorite song up.
yeah. Now I was big about this when I was a teenager, like 15, 16, 17, 18. I would go through these phases, and for about a month or two, I would listen to one group or one artist. Like, I remember going through a Barry Manilow phase. I remember going through an ABBA phase. I remember going through, believe it or not, this is a good one. And people look at me funny. Really? You like that? Yeah, I do because my music taste is very eclectic. Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. I went through a phase on that
Sure.
because it just so happens in my record collection, I do have a 2 record set and I played the crap out of it.
That's
I don't know if
nice.
that word I don't know if that word's allowed on YouTube, but yes, I said it. But I played it to death more or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would go through these little music spats. I think Gladys Knight and the Pips was in there at one point. Which this is how going through these phases, I think, is what got me pretty well knowledgeable in all these different groups and artists
Oh,
that I
you
do
are a
know.
music encyclopedia. For anyone that doesn't know, I mean, some of you viewing do know that from prior videos that he, would get on in the past. And literally, Steve is literally a walking encyclopedia of music. It's just so amazing. Hey, let us know in the comment section below. People of a certain age, let's say past 45, who has musical moments that you remember, whether it's from the radio or going to the record store or just certain bands or certain artists that you like. You just said you like go through phases, Steve. I agree with you. I remember going through the Barry Manilow phase. I remember going through all of that. It was just, oh my gosh.
Hmm.
Elton John, for me, my high school years, high school and Elton, forget it. That was like my whole high school career. Elton.
Okay, I'm glad you brought him up. There was another one I couldn't think of, but I went through a period through his music too. So there's not really too many. I know people yay or nay him, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody's entitled.
Of course.
But I went through a phase of Elton John, and back when I was a teenager, I highly went through a lot of his 70s stuff.
Yeah.
Not so much 80s. I pretty much had the 80s section already down by that point. But I started listening to you know, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, even though we know that's a cover, although I like Elton's take on it. Um, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, Philadelphia Freedom, um, Leave On, Tiny Dancer, Your Song. Well, you get the idea. I went through
Uh,
that
yeah.
whole
Oh, yeah.
Crocodile Rock, Honky
Yeah.
Cat, all of them, Rocket Man. But now I know everything from his 70s material all the way up, to that the Lion King that he did,
Yeah.
you know, the one Simple Life. Oh shoot, my I hate it when my mind does this. I go through a little brain block. It was
Can you feel the love tonight?
That's the
Was
one. That's the one. Thank you. That's the one I couldn't
oh,
think
that
of.
song brings me to tears. From The Lion King. If anybody has ever seen that, it's just like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but now I know all
I feel like I grew
pretty
up
much.
with Elton. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Another one that I went through a spat for a little while. He lived and grew up about an hour away from me, Gainesville, Florida. Tom Petty.
right, right, nice.
I went through. So I went through these different spats. Well, Tom Petty's not completely a washout. Like, oh, I don't know what his songs are. Yeah, I did know what his songs are because me growing up with '80s music for the most part. Um, he was real popular on this thing called Once Upon a Time. It's garbage now, and I'm calling it what it is. MTV, when they actually showed a music video.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
know,
I understand
now,
completely. I do.
but now you got all this stupid reality shows, and
Um,
I
it's
don't know,
just.
1 minute to the.
Oh, I have an interesting fact for you about an Elton song. Again, my association with high school. Even my high school song, the song that we picked, the class that was to be our graduation song, was "Friends."
I remember that one. Yeah, I
Making
think that.
friends for the world to see. That one.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I believe that was
Oh.
like if memory serves me right, that's on one of his earlier
It came out in
albums.
71, that actual
Okay.
tune. It came out so, but I graduated, much later on than that. So that year, when, graduation from high school, that was our song. So yeah, like then after high school, I've always loved Elton. Then I went into the Billy Joel thing. How about you, Steve?
Oh, okay. That's another chapter within itself. Actually, you and I, because you and I know each other outside of YouTube. You and I got into a little bit of a Billy Joel. Uh,
I mean, you
oh
could get into a
yeah.
Billy Joel conversation for like 6 hours straight.
Um, you may be right. Don't ask me why, which is another song by him. I tend to
Yeah,
overslip. Piano Man,
yeah.
Big Shot,
So many.
Your Life, Honesty, Just the Way You Are, which I think is one of his best songs, hands down,
Yes,
ever.
I agree.
Um, and then well into the '80s with Uptown Girl, The Longest
Yes.
Time, Keeping the Faith, um, blah blah blah. I
Didn't you
mean,
tell me that one a very popular tune from him that I personally love, he really didn't respect too much? Which one was it? Was it "We Didn't Start the Fire"? Okay, I don't know. I think Steve is a little bit frozen, but not long ago, Steve and I were having a chat about "We Didn't Start the Fire," and I'm almost positive it was Steve who said that it was Billy Joel's kind of like not the greatest song that he felt that he had. That's pretty funny because I have to laugh because a young family member of mine bugs out on that song, which is pretty funny when you hear or you see a 4-year-old bugging out on stuff that we heard when we were so young. That's the way it works with music. Music just goes through the ages. It just goes on and on through the ages. Hey, here I am solo for a second. I'm sure it's just a technical issue, and Steve will sign back on to the show. Um, Before I personally forget, and I know Steve will be back. I'm sure he's just trying to re-sign on. So we'll just talk. Going to talk 1 second, taking a minute break from music, waiting for Steve to get back, and to tell you that there's another item that really does not or should not ever break the bank. It's a food item, and I mentioned it way earlier at the top of the show, and it is pizza. Because this is like kind of interesting. One of our very loyal viewers and commenters was saying how he saw like an incredible increase in his local area in his store about the price of a certain national brand frozen pizza, how it went up so much. Oh my goodness. That is something that, well, we could kind of control that. Number one, I was unaware of the size of the pizza he was referring to. It jumped from about a $4 or $3 and change all the way up to 8 something and change. Again, I didn't have all the information provided to me, but I was told that that jumped all the way up into the 8 something range. That is a huge chunk. That does not have to be. So, what can we do? Well, I just got through eating before recording this. Steve, hi, Steve. I was talking to the folks about more music, and now I'm just mentioning about the pizza. We could go right back to the music, okay?
Okay, yeah, something happened on my end. I have no clue.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I was answering a question about we didn't start the fire, but then my internet decided to go wacko. And
yeah.
folks, again, this is internet. We have no control over it.
No
So,
control, but we worked through it. Let me just finish this point. We'll go right back to you, Steve.
all right.
So, thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
pizza definitely does not have to be one of those foods that you need to agree with the higher price to, unless that's what you feel like doing. But this is
yeah.
my opinion. So yeah. So as you know, Steve, one of our sweet viewers was complaining, and rightfully so, that his pizza went from 3 and change or 4 and change all the way up to 8 and change. And that's really not necessary. I don't know the size of the pizza he was referring to, but here's one thing all of us can do. What is pizza? Basically, a basic pizza is a type of bread or a dough, a type of sauce, and a topping. We know the traditional way, but we have expanded our traditions over time. Am I right, Steve, or am I right? Do you ever
Yeah.
make your own like from scratch things like French bread pizza?
Well, not French bread pizza years ago. I mean years ago. I think I was like a preteen. Of course, I had help. Yeah, I made my own pizza way back. This was back in the 80s. This was like 1984, 85. But I have done it. It's actually cheaper to make your own pizza. You could always buy, like I was mentioning to you before we came in. This is before we I hit the record button. That you can buy DiGiorno made up pizza crust. You can buy cheese. You can buy bottled sauce, and you're going to make more than one pizza out of it.
Absolutely. And you could tailor make it to your own. And here's a fun thing to do with the kids. So if you figure out your bread base, whatever that bread base, the dough or the French bread or whatever you use, the kids could join and you could have a make like your own pizza preparation bar, and they could choose whatever topping they want. And guess what, Steve? 99% they're going to eat their own creation because they're fascinated. They want to try their own food and it will not go to waste. You don't have to spend a lot of money on pizza to have pizza.
No, you don't. No, you don't. And there's a few good brands out there. Red Baron is pretty good. Um,
DiGiorno's
DiGiorno,
good.
DiGiorno, I do like a lot. Tombstone is pretty good, although it's been a while since I've had it,
Yeah.
and I want to revisit that. One brand you've tried, I know where to get it. I may get it. Um, in a few days I may consider Elio's
I can't find it by me anymore. Maybe it's just regional again. I used to be able to get that in the 80s. That's what I gave
in the
my
80s.
sweet daughter all the time.
Yeah, so I want to visit that. That way it'll give me a little bit of a mental picture. Hey, which one's better, you know? But no, you don't. It's a shame that pizza um there we go. Seems like everything's going wrong today. Um but I would want to try the different pizzas. That way I get a visual
Right.
of what each one is. So,
Now, Steve, I did have a question for you about "We Didn't Start the Fire." Was it you
all
and
right.
I that had this conversation that even though a lot of people, including yours truly, I ran to the store to get the music of it, but Billy Joel himself was like, about that production? He was
He
like,
didn't he said because it did not have a melody of any type, all it was. He said it was something basically that he just threw together and all it is going through time.
and it was
So
good, it was different.
it was different. It got him a number 1. Um I too, well I went out and got the CD, but I too went out and got We Didn't Start the Fire as well. And I've had it all this time. I don't when it comes to my music collection and it's pretty extensive, no, I don't part ways with my stuff. I keep it. No. Well, there is one thing, keep in mind. You can have Spotify, Pandora, any type of base type thing, for your music. Well, yeah, they do offer packages where you can pay, but it's still not a yeah. That can be out. But it's always good to have that fallback of CD or whatever record because it's available 4 hours a day.
So, Steve, I just want to mention your audio cuts
While
out
I
a little
look
bit.
at it.
So, anyway,
Okay.
well, all
That
right.
I'm just seeing that. Well, I all right. Let's go ahead and close this up. I want to
Yeah.
say thank you to all for afternoon. I want another lapse. You know, out for all of us. Jen has it on here every morning, Monday through 5 a.m. audio show, and I'm on
Thank you so much,
at
Steve.
random
Thanks,
times.
everyone.
Hope all of you have a great. You're welcome. All right, take care. Bye.